So, my family immigrated to Rochester, New York in 1964 from King Street, South Carolina. Well, you're probably thinking, how did they immigrate here? And why would I say they immigrated here? Because their story is an immigrant story. Like many Rochesterians and many families that are here and call Rochester home today. My grandfather, Cecil McCleary, was born on April 21st, 1924, to a mother who was ill. And she passed away when he was 3 years old. And so he was the youngest and the only male in his family. He never went to school. He would walk the other kids to school. He always had a desire and a dream that he one day would be able to change his life circumstances, be that change for his family. When he married my grandmother, they were sharecroppers. And in South Carolina during the Jim Crow days, sharecroppers really just worked the land for the landowner. And they paid their rent by the crop that they actually grew. They had heard about a city that was up north that was a city of hope. The beacon of hope is what they called it. And his sister had moved here earlier, and he had said, she sent way for him and said, I think that you should come here. You can find a job. You can change your life. And they thought about it. But South Carolina was all that they knew. King Street was all that they knew. So he sent my grandmother first, and she came and she looked at the place and she said, this is a place that I think we can change our family's course. We can raise our family here. And this is the beacon of hope for many generations to come. So they packed up the old truck and they got their family, their 8 children, and they put them in the back, and they started to come, but they were stopped. He was arrested, and he was thrown in jail because the landowner said, you owe us money. He didn't believe that he owed the money. My grandmother didn't believe that they owed the money, but they had to pay. They used whatever money they had and borrowed money from family and friends to get him out of jail, because coming to Rochester was what he prayed for since he was 3 years old and his mother had passed away. Being able to change his life circumstance, being able to create an environment for the next generation. And so they came here, and they worked hard, and they had 8 children, and the oldest 3 helped them on the farm in South Carolina, and they were in their teens when they got here, and they tried to go to school, but they recognized that school really wasn't for them because they had this thick accent, and they really didn't, have the formative years that they needed to really succeed in high school. So they decided that they would work. They would work and give their money to their parents, and so that their parents could take care of the younger children. They had 5 other brothers and sisters. My mom was the 3rd oldest child and the only girl at that point in time. And she said, I want to help my siblings succeed. Education may not be what I can achieve for myself at this point in time, but I know that my brothers and sisters can. And so my aunt, the one that I'm named after, was the first in our family to graduate from high school, to graduate from college, and to go on and receive her PhD, setting the stage for every generation after her. Her nieces and nephews and children now knew that college was obtainable, that hard work really paid off. Now, what does this story mean to you? When I think about our city, the city that I was born in, the city that I love, the city that your families chose to come to, the cities that you currently raise your family in, I think about the fact that this city is the beacon of hope for so many. But we have our challenges. Today, we're third in the nation for childhood poverty. Our educational system is one of the worst in the country. In some of our neighborhoods, unemployment is in the upwards of 20%. And so as many of our families came here, looking at this community as the beacon of hope and achieving that dream for generations, today, some of those people are suffering. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm excited. I'm excited because I know our city's history. I know that Rochester does not lead from behind. We lead from the front. We are Rochesterians. And what do I mean by that? When we talk about this city, the city that we all love, the city that when it came down to social movements was at the forefront and led the nation. When we talk about Susan B. Anthony and the women's rights movement, it happened right here in Rochester. When we think about Frederick Douglass and the abolitionist movement and equal rights for all people, it started and it happened right here in Rochester, New York. We lead. When we think about the LGBT community and gay and lesbian rights, starting and being a part of that movement at the University of Rochester, and the city of Rochester electing its first openly gay candidate in New York State, it happened right here in Rochester, New York. We don't follow, we lead. Think about the fact that George Eastman started a company that's worldwide today, right here in this city. Eastman Kodak started here. Think about Xerox and Bausch & Lomb. All those companies started here in Rochester. We lead, and we will lead once again. And I'll tell you how. Because just like my family and your families, this story is a story that we will pass on from generation to generation. We have to tell our young kids, my daughter is now 4, and we have to let them understand who we are as Rochesterians. The fact that even today, we have more patents per capita than many other cities in this country. Even today, our universities and colleges are breaking barriers across this nation. We have to talk about the fact that this city is probably one of the very few cities in the world that has 2 falls, a gorge, and a lake. The city that we love is a city worth talking about, it's a city worth saving, and it's a city that we have to fight for. Our challenges may be great, but our opportunities are even greater because we have all these great people, all of you that care about our community. The story of my family's story of one person helping another person so that they could succeed, knowing that I may never realize that dream, but somebody else may, is a story that we may never forget, and we can't forget. Think about the fact that Susan B. Anthony never was able to see women get the right to vote. She was never able to see the first woman mayor elected in this city. 141 years to the day that she cast her illegal vote. This is the city that we love. Understand, Rochester is a city that will lead the nation, and we will lead the nation once again because of all of you and all of us working together to improve the outcomes, not only just for my daughter, but for your children and your grandchildren. Let's never forget where we came from, understand what our purpose is, and understand, most of all, who we are. Thank you.